In this video, we will take you on a cycling tour to show you some of the highlights across Burgenland's Kulturradwanderweg, which roughly translates to the cultural bicycle tour in English. After beginning in the town of Pottersdorf, we cycled 8 kilometers to the town of Frauenkirchen.
So our cultural tour effectively starts from over here, where we're going to begin at this 17th century basilica here in the town of Frauenkirchen.
The Basilica of Frauenkirchen was already an important pilgrimage church during the 14th century. However, the church was destroyed twice by the Ottoman Turks. The first instance occurred during the 16th century and the second was in the 17th century. Following this in the late 17th century, Paul I Esterhazy arranged that the basilica be rebuilt, as well as the Franciscan monastery that is attached to it. Today, there is also a small museum in the monastery that informs visitors about the basilica's and the parish's history. Frauenkirchen also had a thriving Jewish community of more than 300 people until Austria was annexed by the Nazis in 1938. Soon after the Jews were dispelled and/or murdered and their synagogue destroyed, only the Jewish cemetery remained. From Frauenkirchen, we then cycled onwards towards Halbturn.
That is hideously scary. I feel like it's something from the zombie apocalypse, like it's gonna jump out and chase me.
So after having met our new and interesting mate along the way, and thankfully he wasn't actually the sort of person to desire and devour human flesh, we headed towards the beautiful Schloss Halbturn. The Schloss Halbturn was built as a hunting palace for Emperor Charles VI in the 18th century, and later modified by Empress Maria Theresa to what it looks like today.
So we're now at one of the highlights of this bicycle tour, and right now we're in the gardens of the Schloss Halbturn, which is the Halbturn Palace, and we're about to go inside to see an exhibition.
In 1945, towards the end of World War II, the palace was pillaged by the Russians, and only 4 years later, almost the whole building was destroyed by a fire. Today, the renovated palace and gardens are open to the public and serve as a place for classical concerts and exhibitions. In this exhibition, the museum showcased beautiful arts and crafts and cultural paraphernalia related to the peoples that resided along the old trading route of the Orient.
And right there in the middle of the Silk Route, the old Silk Route, is the land of my ancestors.
Our path then continued into the peaceful little village of Mönchhof, where we would pay a fascinating visit to the local village museum.
So the second major highlight of this bicycle tour is this living history museum called the Dorf Museum in the town of Mönchhof, which we're going to peruse around right now.
Now, if you're anything like me and enjoy history and time traveling, the Dorf Museum Mönchhof is a highly recommended place to visit in the state of Burgenland. What originally began as a private collection of artifacts by one of the inhabitants of the village of Mönchhof around 30 years ago slowly turned into a living history museum that now exhibits rural life in the area of Siebenkel from around 1890 to the 1960s in quite elaborate detail. The museum depicts the life and culture that once thrived here, and in many ways provides an insight as to what the simpler life throughout the villages within the state of Burgenland was like. They depict how families both richer and poorer resided, they display how their shops had looked, and what people did for their leisure. The museum even pays homage to the history of Burgenland's proud Roma community. Following this very enjoyable visit to the museum, the cycling path led us through 10 kilometers of Burgenland's typical landscape that saw us all the way back to the town of Pottersdorf where we began. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel.